The legend of Ginny Greenteeth is become known especially in the north of England, Lancashire and Yorkshire being the two main counties. Now, growing up as a kid, we were always told to keep away from ponds, reservoirs and any other bodies of water, because if you get too close to the edge, Ginny Greenteeth will get hold of you and drag you beneath the surface water. So today, my friends, I'm going to take you on a relatively short trip to a place that when I was a young child we used to come to, and we were always frightened of getting too close to the water's edge because of the story of Ginny Greenteeth. Whether or not people believe in this urban legend or folklore or myth, that is up to each individual. But where we are going to today, our story did take place back in November 1852, and it involves the story of a young man or a young boy called Samuel Haworth. He was 16 years of age when this tale or this story occurred. So today, my friends, this is going to be the story of Ginny Greenteeth. So it is said that in the heart of an eerie and foreboding swamp, there used to lay a murky and mysterious pond, and it was known as the Cursed Waters, and that is where we're heading to now, just in that direction. Now, this place was rumoured to be the dwelling of an evil spirit named Jinny Greenteeth. Now, these stories have passed down through the generations, and they always paint her as a devious and deceitful being. Her skin was the colour of rotting leaves, and her hair resembled twisted vines. Her eyes were always said to be emerald colour, with a glimmer that had an unsettling charm that could enchant even the most cautious of men. Now, nearby, in the village of Helmshore, which, if I turn you guys around, is just in that direction, with Tar Hill just in front of us, the townsfolk always used to live in fear of Ginny Greenteeth. And the parents, the mothers, the fathers, they used to teach their children, as I said at the start, to avoid ponds, lakes, reservoirs, and especially the cursed waters. And they would tell tales of how Ginny herself would transform herself into a nymph of sorts, luring unsuspecting children and the elderly with promises of kindness and hidden treasures. But once she had them under her spell, she would use her enchanting voice to coax them closer to the water's edge, and that, when people got too close, she would drag them below the water's surface. Now, the Cursed Waters, where we're heading to now, like I said, this pond or reservoir or whatever it was or is, I've not visited it now for, it must be 30, nearly 40 years. But when we were kids, me and my friends, we used to come to these parts, these areas, just to adventure. And like in many stories me and Vicky's covered about young boys and young girls going adventuring, we were the same. Now, at the time we were told of Ginny Greenteeth, or we heard the stories of Ginny Greenteeth, but as for the Cursed Waters, I don't think any of us were really scared of actually going to it. But once we were there, that is when obviously the unknown kicks in. The nerves start to jingle a little bit, because at the end of the day we were kids. We were 12, 13 year olds, and obviously when you hear tales like this, you kind of do think at the back of your mind, is there some element of truth in it? But we're going to head towards the Cursed Waters now, or where the Cursed Waters used to be, and we're going to talk some more about Ginny Greenteeth and the stories that used to involve her. Now, back in November 1852, the story goes that young Samuel Haworth, who by all accounts was around 16 years of age. Now, like I said at the very start, he'd heard of these tales of Ginny Greenteeth, but like many boys at that age, he didn't really take much notice of it, he didn't believe in it. Until, however, and it was a gloomy evening from all accounts, it was a little bit wet, it had been raining consistently for a few days beforehand. But he went to investigate the cursed waters all by himself. Now, from what I've been reading, he took a lantern with him. I presume it was maybe one of those little gas lanterns, candle perhaps, but he certainly took a lantern with him. And he made his way along this old country lane where we are now, and he headed towards, like I said, what was known, or still is known as, the cursed waters. Well, I think it's still known as the cursed waters, but I don't really hear anybody within Helmshore talking about this place anymore. So whether or not the legend itself has died down, it's been and gone, I don't know, but perhaps the years haven't been too kind to this legend and this neck of the woods. But Samuel made his way most certainly to the cursed waters. Now, when he got there, just like any other evening, he didn't really feel threatened, he didn't feel intimidated by anything. And that was until he heard a voice, a strange voice, a lady's voice, coming from the nearby water's edge. Now, obviously, Samuel himself, one would presume, would have been slightly taken aback by this, slightly spooked out by this. But curiosity again took over, and from all accounts, he went closer to the cursed water's edge. And that is when the voice came, or sounded, I should say, a little bit louder. Now, if memory serves me correct, and like I said, I'm going back 30, nearly 40 years since I was last over in these neck of the woods. Well, the cursed waters, I think, is just past this tree line here. So we'll make our way there now. The weather's starting to change. I don't know if that's a good or a bad sign, but it's starting to get a little bit drizzly now. But we'll keep on heading forwards, and hopefully we'll find where the cursed waters is, or I should say used to be. Now, as I was saying, when Samuel had got close to the cursed waters, he cast his lantern across the swamp, and this is obviously when he heard the faint voice coming from the same direction. Now, as he cautiously approached the water, and like I said, I presume he would have been slightly taken back from the whispers, the eerie whisper that was coming from the water's edge itself. Ginny's voice, and what I should make out, if I've not already said it, is Ginny had an enchanting voice. It was a kind, softly spoken voice, and she used to use this tactic to lure people to the water's edge, to make them feel safe and comfortable with her. Now, he could hear, from all accounts, Ginny's voice enchanting him, or I should say the enchanting voice of Ginny, and it was beckoning Samuel, like I said, closer to the water's edge. Now, suddenly, and this is what he told people back in the village once he fled this area, but he said he saw a gentle ripple disturb the surface of the pond or the swamp, and a figure emerged from the depths. Now, from the description he gave, he said it was most certainly Ginny Greenteeth herself. Her description matched many of the tales that he had been told growing up as a young kid. And it described her disappearance. He described her appearance, I should say, as being a sickly shade of green, and her hair resembled the tendrils of overgrown vines. But her eyes, he said, they were mesmerising. They had a mesmerising allure that Samuel found very hard to resist. Now, Samuel would go on to tell the townsfolk back in nearby Helmshore that Ginny herself had shouted over to Samuel, "Behold, traveller, come closer, and I've got untold riches that you may have." Now, what these riches were supposed to be, we can only guess, but obviously it was just a decoy to lure Samuel to the water's edge. And Samuel himself, as he was staring into the gaze of Ginny, he just couldn't hold himself back. Now, as he got towards the water's edge, Ginny's voice changed. And from all accounts, Samuel was only a foot or so away from the edge of the pond. And her voice changed, and it got a bit more sinister, a bit more darker. And suddenly he said he felt something pulling on one of his legs, and it was trying to pull him towards the water itself. And he would tell local villagers that Ginny had got hold of his leg, or his foot I should say, near his ankle, and tried desperately to drag him into the pond. Now, all this might sound a bit dramatic and a bit woohoo, a bit out there, but these are stories from our dark past. These are stories that, as children, we grew up on. And I'm not going to say that this story itself has any elements of truth in it. That's up for you to decide for yourselves. But this story in particular has always kind of stayed here in the village of Helmshore. But I think, like I said, throughout the years, throughout the ages, it's become less talked about. And it's only those, like probably my age or a bit older, who can still recall visiting this area and knowing the tale of this area. I think it's people like us who are the last few to perhaps continue the tale of Jeannie Greenteeth.
Because I didn't know it.
And Vicky says she didn't know it. And Vicky's only a few years younger than me. But when we were when we were researching this story, you said at the time, didn't you, that you'd never heard the tale of Ginny Greenteeth?
Never heard it.
But it's a fascinating tale, it's a fascinating story. And like I said, it's not just in here, Helmshore in Lancashire, where this story has been told. It's been told further afield in places like Yorkshire from all accounts. But I think in Yorkshire, I may have got this wrong way around, I think she was known as Jeannie Greenteeth and not Ginny. But for the purpose of this story, we were always told it was Ginny Greenteeth. Right, now as we get within a few metres of the coast waters, like I said, and I've said it twice already, myself, I've not been here now for nearly 40 years. But if my memory serves me correctly, the coast waters are just over there. But this is most certainly the same path that Samuel Haworth would have taken back in 1852. Now, where Samuel once lived, I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure. I don't know if he lived in a farm somewhere or he lived in nearby Helmshore. Something tells it was nearby Helmshore, but I'm not entirely sure. But he most certainly made his way here to the coast waters. Now, it's all changed dramatically since I was last here, but I will endeavour to try and find it. So, as you can see directly in front of us is where the old pond used to be, and this my friends, is where the tale of Ginny Greenteeth, well, did it start from here? Is this the origins of Ginny? We can only guess at that. But from all accounts, this is where young Samuel himself made the journey all those years ago. But if you look now, there's obviously nothing to see. It literally is just all covered up, boarded up. But this is where, I don't know if it was a reservoir, I don't know if it was a pond, but most certainly this is where we used to come as children, and we used to sit on the edges, and we used to sit here for a couple of hours at a time before making our way further towards Musby Heights, and sometimes we'd cut across the stream and head up towards Tar Hill, just there in the distance. But this is most certainly where Samuel Haworth came that gloomy evening way back in, I think it was November 1852.
I know where you live. I know where you are. At any moment. At any time. Just relax. It'll all be over soon. Don't scream. No one will hear you. There's no one else around. Just me and you and me and you. Together. Forever.
Now, just for a bit of fun and just to amuse myself, and hopefully you guys, I brought my little K2 meter, my little EMF meter. Now, where we are around here, there is no possibility other than our mobile phones tripping the lights on this. Now, if this indeed is supposed to be haunted with tales of Ginny Greenteeth or any other spirit that may lurk here, we may be able to get some evidence. We might be able to get something on our K2 meter, but like I said, bearing in mind, myself and Vicky, we do have mobile phones, so if it does go off, if it does light up when we ask questions, I'm not saying it's paranormal, but just for curiosity and just for a little bit of fun, we are going to try it out. So we'll call out to Ginny, and you never know, hopefully something will happen. Right, so we've now started the EMF meter, the K2. Now Ginny, or any other spirit that may lurk around here, this device I'm holding in my hand, if it's true that spirits can manipulate energy and a power source, can you walk closer to this device? Can you try to make that green light flash higher up into the yellow? And it's just literally gone into the yellow as I said that. Can you do that again, please, if there is a spirit here? Can you please make that flash into yellow or red? If there is a spirit with us, if Ginny Greenteeth herself is here, if the stories are true, can you make the lights flicker on this device in my left hand? It flickers every so often here. And again, for the third time, if that is a spirit or Ginny Greenteeth, can you make it flash again? Any spirits that are around this old and sealed up pond, can you come forward to make this device flash? It's just here, Vic. Now let's debunk it. I wonder if it's something to do with the metal. The closer the GoPro gets, it kind of is making it flash. So it could well be the GoPro itself, the microphone perhaps. Could well be the microphone, but it's difficult to say. Because there should be no other power source around this area, should there? So if we go a bit further this way. So if there is any spirits with us, Ginny or any other spirit that wishes to communicate, can you make this device flash? I tell you what, if Vicky holds it, facing towards us, so my camera's not near it, if the spirits can go to where Vicky is, holding that device in her left hand, can you make it flash? Can you go up to a different colour? What's a colour? Can you make it up to a different colour? Maybe the yellow, orange or red? It's in Victoria's right hand. If you can get that device to flash for me, we'd appreciate that. And I don't want to be dramatic. Can you hear talking over here?
Yeah.
A murmur?
A murmur, yeah, that's the word. Not talking, murmur. It could be a mixture of a few things.
No. Unless it's water. I'm going to say, is there a little bit of a waterfall perhaps in the distance, and it's every so often it's just coming down. There's definitely some noise coming from this area. So again, tell you what, Vic, if we walk over this side, if you can make that device flash in Victoria or Vicky's right hand, just roughly where I was stood there, weren't I? If you can get that to flash on me, if there is any spirits, or if Ginny Greenteeth herself is here, it's done it again, it's just flashed. It literally flashed right up. It's just here where you're stood.
So, if it's only happening in one place, it could be an issue. So you need to try and get it to do something else.
Weird though, isn't it? That would be bizarre.
We don't know what's down there properly. You know, I'm a sceptic.
Vicky is the number one sceptic, I always say that.
So,
right, so let's try again. So if there is any spirits, I keep calling out, if there is any spirits on the story of Ginny Greenteeth, if she is real here, can you come towards Vicky's right hand and make this device flash? Can you use the power source, the battery inside for energy, or use mine and Vicky's energy to make them lights flicker? We'll ask you one more time and then we'll leave it at that. But if you can make it flicker, we will be really, really grateful. Now I know when I was much younger, and like I keep saying it, I used to come here with my friends, all this looked totally different. You never had this more modern concrete structure. It always used to be, and I can't see anything that resembles it around here, but it always used to be like what you would picture an old quarry face looking. It was jagged stones, and like I said, it used to be like a dark greeny brown slimy look to the water, and there is still water inside there. I'm not sure if the GoPro itself picked it up, but it was more bricked up. It was more like quarry workings, if you will, that used to be here. Now Vicky came out with a good point. Is there a reason why this over the years has been, well, it's been made a bit more secure, hasn't it? It's been completely covered over. Has something, and I'm not saying evil lurking or Jeannie Greenteeth herself, or Ginny Greenteeth I should say, I'm not saying any of that, but as a tragedy occurred here, I might have to look into that when we get back home, but for sure this has been sealed for a reason. Perhaps it is something to do with the tales of Ginny, who knows, but I highly doubt it. I think it's just been done to make it a lot more safer, because like I said, there is a fair drop down into the water below. And whether or not animals, sheep, cows, whatever, have got trapped here, or young kids or even adults maybe have got trapped in here, I don't know. But most certainly this never used to look like what it does today all those years ago. Now, as we continue the story of Samuel Haworth, he would tell villagers that when Ginny herself had grabbed hold of his ankle or his foot, he pulled frantically to free himself from her grasp, and he remembered wrenching himself free and stumbling backwards onto the ground, so somewhere around here. But it's when he fell onto the ground, the lantern he was carrying shattered and the flame that was inside was extinguished, so he was pretty much in complete darkness at this point. Now obviously Ginny herself, if the legend is to be believed, she would still keep beckoning him to the water's edge. And he recalled in his testimony, he recalled Ginny actually shouting out to him something on the lines of, "You dare resist me, mortal." Now again, whether or not all this is just embellished, we can only guess. Now Samuel fled this area and he sprinted through, obviously, all this undergrowth to make his way back to Helmshore. Now he knew at the time that, obviously, if the legends are to be true and Ginny Greenteeth herself was a real nymph or evil spirit, he certainly found out that gloomy evening back in 1852 for himself. Now as the days and months went past, even despite Samuel himself making his way along this wet-trodden path to what was once an old pond, and despite his story of encountering something evil lurking in these waters, people were still curious to make their way here to see for themselves if it was real, if the story of Ginny Greenteeth herself was real. Now strangely, nobody else ever came forwards after that evening to say that they'd encountered the same events, so if you will, the sequence of events that poor Samuel himself suffered from. Well, I won't say suffer from, but I suppose he did suffer from it. At the end of the day, this evil spirit had grabbed him and tried to drag him into the water. He could say mentally he would be scarred for life. But what we do know is that Samuel Haworth himself, he would recount this tale years and years and years later. He'd tell his children and their children, his grandchildren, the story of what happened here back in 1852. His story would circulate around the village of Helmshore and neighbouring Haslingden, and one would presume further afield. But people would still keep coming here themselves to try and find the real truth, if Ginny herself was a real entity. Now it's an amazing story. It's one, like I've said at the start, that not many people in these neck of the woods ever talk about. There's extremely little to be found on this tale, and you will not find anything online about it or about Samuel Haworth. This story was first published, and I can't remember the name of the book. If I do remember it, I'll put it down below. But this story was first published shortly after, sometime around 1860 or in the 1860s, and it was written by, and again, top of my head his name, but there was a chap who used to walk around Lancashire writing books about urban myths, legends. So whether or not the tale of Samuel is indeed true, that's up for you guys to make your own mind upon. The story of Samuel coming here may well be true. He may have come here on his own with his lantern to see for himself if the story of Ginny is real, but what happened when he got here may well be embellished. Again, that's up for you guys to make your own mind up on. But it really is a fascinating story, and like I said, we were brought up on this story, or on the story of Ginny Greenteeth as kids, and I think that was basically to keep us away from water's edge. Not because of any supernatural entity, but just to keep us away from water. Now, some of the lengths me and Vicky go to bring you guys these stories. I do keep asking that people give us a big thumbs up and share these videos. It does help the channel grow, and it is growing at a rapid rate at the moment. We seem to be getting new subscribers on a daily basis, which I can only thank you all for, and Vicky also thanks you all for. We've hit the 1500 mark. I think we're up to 1525 at the time of putting this video together, so we're well and truly up above the 1500 subscriber count. The next milestone obviously is going to be 2000 subscribers, and that will be massive for us, because never once, don't know about Vicky, but never once did I ever dream that our little channel talking about local stories in and around where we live would ever become so popular. Okay, it might not be in its tens of thousands of subscribers or millions, but still, even if you had one subscriber, I'd call that as a success, would you not, Vic? So we do thank you both, well, we do thank you both. We both thank you all for continuously coming along, watching these videos, commenting on them. We know we're not perfect all the time with it, but we tell these stories as we tell them. We try not to be too clever. We just research the stories, we come out, we take you guys to the locations where these stories all originate or occurred, and it kind of works. So thank you so much from our hearts for your constant coming back to the channel, constant support, constant commenting. We never take it for granted. Now I've just got to get past this swamp where Vicky's now just managed to get through, and I've only got trainers. So this is what I mean, guys, about when we do these videos. So that is all from Helmshore and the cursed waters, and the story of Jinny Greenteeth and how Samuel Haworth encountered that evil spirit way back in 1852. Now tell us your thoughts down below on this story. Do you think there was an element of truth in what Samuel encountered that evening, or do you think it was just all embellished and Samuel himself had heard the tales and just thought he would take it one step further? Comment down below and tell us your thoughts. Also, if you've got similar stories or tales from your neck of the woods, perhaps you live further afield in Yorkshire or Staffordshire or wherever in the UK or even abroad, if you've got similar tales like this, comment down below and tell us what your tales are. But in the meantime, me and Vicky are going to leave the cursed waters behind us on that poor little mole, and we're going to head back home. We do have a lot more tales and a lot more stories coming, so keep your eyes peeled for them. In the meantime, as you always say, and I'm just dodging my footwork around here because it's swampy, but in the meantime, as I always say, take care, look after yourselves, and we will be back soon with another tale from a dark and at times glorious past. Take care, everyone.